Tonight's coverage of the NLRL Sunday League is brought to you by Malwa Transport, oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialists of Quebec. Visit their website on www.malwa-transport.ca. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the opening round of Season 4 of the NLRL Sunday League, powered by Malwa Transport and live exclusively on TRTN. As always, it is my great pleasure to be here today. I am Regan Clark, and I bring to you one of 10 rounds in this forthcoming championship, as we are now 4 seasons on the trot with the folks at the No Limits Racing League, and what a championship we have been able to revel in over the last 3 seasons. Heading into Season 4, things are looking very, very bright for the future of the NLRL Sunday League. Reeling from what was a very controversial ending to Season 3. We'll get onto that a little later on, but for the opening round of the championship, we see here one of the Sunday League's most noticeable figures on track, James Mason, making his way out down towards Turn 1 on the exit of the pit lane here in Gasoline Alley on what is a legendary circuit, of course, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The second ever dedicated racing course developed worldwide after Brooklands in 1907. Indianapolis was opened in 1909 with its darling event, the Indianapolis 500, coming about 3 years later. In the time being repaved for such event, the locals in Indiana gave it the nickname the Brickyard, as it was 3.2 million bricks used to line the surface of the track. Only a single yard-long strip of those bricks remain, now lining what is the start-finish straight here on the modern layout of the road course, using the first half of its IndyCar configuration and its second half of its Grand Prix configuration. This particular layout, used in the GT World Challenge America Series, is 15 turns and 2.5 miles of FIA Grade 1, and the home of Round 1 of Season 4. Looking at the calendar, of course, we saw the very peculiar way by which that calendar was decided back at the season finale in Silverstone at Season 3, and here you see it in the flesh. Indianapolis, our first round of the championship, coming up with Valencia Round 2, Imola Round 3, Monza Round 4, and Spa-Francorchamps put the season midway for Round 5. Then into the second half of the championship, Nürburgring GP Circuit for Round 6, Alton Park Round 7, Kyle Army Round 8, Laguna Seca Round 9, and we're back to where we ended Season 3, back at Silverstone for Round 10 all the way into 2026. For the majority, though, of the championship, you'll be seeing us through the winter months here in October, November and December. Now, discussing the new regs for the championship, and you'll notice a few things have changed in the grand scheme of things. So getting a look into the regulations coming up for today's event. Of course, we are on the standard format for round 1 of the championship, free practice, of which we're in at the moment, 10 minutes, then a 20-minute qualifying session and 60 minutes of racing, 1 mandatory pit stop for fuel with a 25-second minimum pit stop time. Now, looking into the regulations coming into effect here for Season 4 of the championship, the double sprint races now feature a mandatory pit stop each for fuel only, with no limited fueling time, so it's around about a minimum of 3.2 seconds for a stop and drop. The endurance races will also feature this style of pit stop, leaving strategy open-ended for the 90-minute races to follow later on in the championship. However, for standard races like the ones today, they're capped at the standard 25-second minimum bracket. We also see an ambitious new direction for the Sunday League, as for Season 4, we have the introduction of the Rookies Championship. For drivers first entering the Sunday League, making their debut here, or returning from sim racing after a long hiatus, rookies will be given a spot in a separate championship, but will all compete under the overall banner of Season 4's overall championship. They'll be marked on the overlays for ACC with red, and on our overlays with yellow. This will only last for a lot of these drivers for just this season, as if they are to join us for Season 5, they will no longer be rookies themselves to the Sunday League. Looking at the teams participating for the second running of the NLRL Sunday League Teams Championship, we have the returning champions of Season 3, Malwa Racing. They'll be joined by K1 Esports, Holkianos Motorsports, Velocity Racing Team and Exclusive Esports. We also have LLE AM, Team Raceline, Sparco CTA Autosport, Veloce Spirits 31 and the Pacific Racing League, all with drivers registered for the Teams Championship. It's going to be an exciting next couple of rounds, 10 rounds in all, with a sprinkling there of those double sprint races of which we have come to know and love over the course of last season. Speaking of, looking back through those results, let's try and pick apart where we left off at the end of Season 3. It was, of course, a win for Tyler Vermack in the opening of those 2 races at Silverstone. You'll note that Cas van Veltzen now shows up as the race winner. Now, explaining what exactly happened for the Season 3 verdict, we have to take a look back to the post-race investigation for Season 3, round 10-2. That was the second of 2 races at Silverstone, wherein which race control launched an investigation regarding an incident between Tyler Vermack and Melvin Milliston. At the time, those two were absolutely locked in for the chances of a championship either side of it. It had to be a case of who finished ahead of the other. Ultimately, Vermack was penalised for his incident, which I believe was down at the loop, if memory serves correctly, and would have needed to have won that race and finished ahead of Milliston at all costs to have taken home Season 3's championship. With this penalty, though, he dropped down to 3rd place and lost out by only a few points to Milliston, giving the Swede Season 3's championship. The race win for Season 3 round 10-2 was given to Cas van Velzen. Having a look at how that affected things, looking into our previous championships now, a new name added to the chart. Melvin Milliston wins Season 3. Of course, we showed it on stream that it was Vermack winning in Season 3. That was before the investigation was launched. Milliston, the definitive winner now of Season 3 of the NLRL Sunday League, and he did so in the number 68 McLaren 720S, and then later the BMW M4. You'll find now that he returns to McLaren, and this is among a myriad of changes for our returning drivers. But you'll note if we go and find Milliston now returning to the field with McLaren, as we see also a very recent discussion. We'll catch up on that in just a moment's time. Very exciting stuff down the line for the runner-up of that championship, Tyler Vermack. But if we go and find here, if we can find him in the pit lanes, we see is Melvin Milliston shying away there behind the Season 1 champion. That's Christian Lebay. You can see right there 2 championships just on screen alone. But you'll note on the overlays there to your left-hand side that Melvin Milliston is now sporting the number 1 in lieu of his championship victory in Season 3. And he also now adorns the gold star next to the flag of his home nation there, Sweden. And he's one of 3 drivers in the history of the Sunday League to have obtained the gold star. And of course, one of them sitting right next to him, as a matter of fact, that's Christian Lebay, the other driver being Jason Bush back in Season 2. Looking around the field then as we try to catch next towards the line, the number 5 car, one of our new drivers in the championship. Down towards the line, it's Stefan Nicolai, competing in the Rookies Championship for K1 Esports. The Romanian crosses the line there, 1:36.865 on his last lap just gone. And whilst we stay on board here with one of the new drivers on the block, let's get a discussion of the balance of performance for today's round of the championship here at round 1. We can see that it's business as usual for Aston Martin, 40 kilos off of the V12 Vantage. Then we find Porsche with the second best BOP package at 17 kilos removed from the 992. Bentley find themselves with 10 kilos shed off, and McLaren with 2 kilos. Then into the positives, BMW gaining 2 kilos, Mercedes gaining 5, Ford gaining 11, and Ferrari gaining 15. So right now for Nicolai, he's going to find himself on the slightly better side of things here. Negligible differences for McLaren and BMW, 2 kilos either side of it. But he'll be fortunate to have not been on the rule of extremes there for Ford and Ferrari at the real bottom end there of the BOP graphs for round 1 of the championship. Of course, with the playing field open-ended, there are 2 championships to be discussed, the overalls and the rookies. Who will emerge as rookie of the season? And that will give them very good hopes heading into Season 5, where all eyes will be on them as that division champion. Now, of course, we are expecting quite strong rebuttal from the front of the pack, and getting a look at the timing charts right now, we can find it is rich and plentiful with times from returning names. Tyler Vermack, we can see, is our next topic of discussion, and where we have seen quite drastic moves there for Milliston back to McLaren, now sporting the number 1. We can see it's the same story for his rival Tyler Vermack, who you can see now, and after confusion last season, is more than definitely, and we can confirm this to you right now, sporting the colours of the exclusive esports team. Now, he told us here at TRTN that the reasoning behind his move to XCL, and moreover, actually, the reason why he now sports the number 25, I should say, is because on the 25th of October, he was announced to be the next driver at Exclusive Esports. This was after he had spent some time over at the Velocity Racing team, of which he is set to continue his path down for the end of the XCL Pro Series, of which we've seen him competing over the last 2 rounds. The one most recently ran was yesterday, posted over on XCL TV at the Red Bull Ring. It was a fantastic fight all round. You can see now Vermack with a brand new look. The number 25 Ford Mustang currently atop the timing charts by nearly a whole second here before the end of free practice. Coming up actually right on to the end of free practice. Another discussion here for returning drivers. A big move for Cas van Velzen. This is his third car in 2 seasons now. Van Velzen started Season 2 with Ford, moved over to Porsche by the end of Season 3, and then for Season 4, it's a move over to Mercedes. Now, we know there is definitely method in the madness here. Every move by Van Velzen, whether it be the move from Ford to Porsche or the move now to Mercedes, have been very precisely calculated, so there is big hopes for his move over to AMG for this season. You see James Mason third fastest, just ahead there of Christian Lebay at the end of free practice. But we're on to the almost imminent discussions now of qualifying. With 20 minutes against the clock for qualifying coming up in a moment's time, this could be a very exciting opening to the season. 25 cars at the moment, joining from a myriad of different teams. See just across the line a moment ago, Stefan Nikolai, one of the new rookies there, fastest of the rookies at the end of free practice. The number 5, currently 5th overall at the end of free practice. Next towards the line, the number 39 there on our charts. And that will be Corey Aiken. Or Corey Aiken, I should say, sorry. The number 39 Ferrari down towards the line from 23rd. Ultimately, we may never know where he placed. What we do know is that qualifying is underway. You can see already movement up front there. Milliston, Van Velzen, Mason, and looking up the road there, that appears to be Scott Milbank. Another move over to BMW. You can see there are the two K1 Esports BMWs actually moving over for one another as Mason gets to be the first out of the gates. As always then, the early bird, number 413, is first out of the gates for qualifying. Looking into those quali predictions then for round 1 of the championship, this was taken earlier on today, and it places George Todd at the front of the pack with a 135.795 in his number 12 Ferrari. That puts him ahead of Melvin Milliston and Christian Lebay, second and third. Ultimately, that front row in that data packet taken at about 4 o'clock today shows the top 2 separated by only 2 thousandths of a second. Lebay third, with Zolt Beefgartner returning from the the Tempest Motorsports team that we commonly see over on the Console Endurance Series, now making his Sunday League debut. He'll be competing with Lexus in the Rookies Championship, and he's currently predicted at 4th ahead of Cas Van Velzen. Sam Angel, another one of the Lexuses, joining us for the Rookie Championship, currently predicted at 6th ahead of JM Keto, also a rookie in this championship, 7th. And ahead of his teammates there, Sergio Belda and Ivan Sanchez at the Holkianos Motorsports team. Rounding out that predicted top 10, Scott Milbank on your screens at the moment in the 44 BMW, predicted 10 for 138.055. This is going to be a very exciting opening qualifying session. We're on board here with the 413 of James Mason. You can see on the minimap to your left-hand side just how busy things are getting here in Indianapolis for what is only the opening flying laps coming up in a moment's time. So down towards turns 13, 14, and 15, we'll get a comprehensive tour of things here at Indianapolis, courtesy of the Sunday League's early birds, the BMW number 413 of James Mason. Following him now out of turn 15 as we hit just a little bit of the banking here on our run down towards the Brickyard. The final remaining bastion of those bricks laid over a century ago. Heading down towards turn 1 then. Now this utilizes what is both commonly used in both Indy cars in a field layout and also for the 2000 to 2007 United States Grand Prix in Formula 1 here at turns 1, 2, in towards turn 3 and 4. Now, drivers have complained in the past that this is a relatively featureless section of the track, but we found time in and time out it has been a bountiful opportunity for side-by-side action as we head now down through turn 5 into one of our major attacking spots here. This dive into an open hairpin left at turn 6. Curving around for the run into turn 7. We've seen, actually most recently in the opening round of the Competizione Performance League Jaguar GT3 Revival Series, which also competed not long ago here at Indianapolis, that it was a plentiful opportunity to get side by side. On the exit of turn 7, down the back straight here towards turn 8 on the run into sector 3. Through turn 8 we go. Now, we've seen last season as well. It was a very controversial running in Indianapolis. Major incident down at turn 8 between Bruno Carr and Melvin Milliston. We saw plenty of side-by-side action heading into this area of the track down through turns 9, 10, and 11. Down towards turn 12. And that very sudden jut inwards towards turn 13. Down towards turn 14 in a moment's time, a sweeping left-hander, which also gives us the initial guidance into the pit lane. You can see they're just jutting out from the driver's right-hand side, entering turn 15 then on the run back down towards the line, courtesy of James Mason then, your unofficial tour of this particular layout of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Mason down to the line to become our benchmark time, a 136.918 from behind him. Cas Van Velzen off by 2 tenths. Then from behind him there you can see as well, that appears to be, that is Scott Milbank. Then from behind the number 1 making his way to the line, Melvin Milliston. But oh, what has gone on here, as we are looking at a potential technical fault here, folks. That is a bit of a confusing one. We'll be back in just a moment's time. Well, that appeared to be something our side, folks. We'll have to turn off the countdown timer as it reset itself, but that was definitely a bit of a peculiar one to kick off the start of qualifying. Of course, a record high attendance here, 25 drivers for the opening qualifying session of the championship. Right now, after that temporary outage, we now find ourselves with Tyler Vermack atop the timing charts by nearly a whole 7/10 of a second over Melvin Milliston himself, only a couple hundredths ahead of Christian LeBay in third, George Todd in fourth. We see, though, up to just a moment's time there. Actually, up to fifth from behind him, Stefan Nikolai in the Rookies Championship, the number 5 up and ahead of James Mason and Kevin Quain, now 6th and 7th. Salt Beefgartner, one of the other rookies as well, with Lexus. Actually, both of them shoved down a peg, as we've just seen across the line, Cas van Veltzen to 4th fastest. So that, you have to forgive us for that there, folks. We're really quite confused as to what exactly went on. Melvin Milliston now up to pole position by just under a 10th of a second. Across the line from behind him there was the 607 of Kevin Quain, with Malwar Racing up to 3rd fastest now. It's a Malwar second row as we enter the first 5 minutes of qualifying today. We are going to try and quickly just fix that quali timer to get that back up on the screen as soon as possible. That was a very bizarre start to the championship. I suppose if we're going to have disconnects at any point, I'd suppose they'd be better now. George Todd now up to 3rd fastest. LeBay now pushed down to 4th. Vermack still remains in 2nd place here, behind Melvin Milliston by 0.06 of a second. Looking further down the line here, we see Kevin Quain's pushed out of the top 5 by Zolt Beefgartner, the number 599 Lexus, 5th fastest after his last run of flying laps. Cas van Veltzen down to 7th, Stefan Nikolai in 8th place, with James Mason 9th, JM Keto in the top 10 from behind him there. You can see a BMW down towards the line. Looking at it here, that was the number 11, one of the new rookies in the season there. That is Nye Roberts, and that is a long, long time since we have seen Nye Roberts. We are just waiting here for our cue to re-engage the qualifying timer. Again, I cannot apologise enough for that. That was a very bizarre technical fault on our end. Very rare that it's our side that has the problem, but oh well. So, and with there, the 13 minutes remaining in this qualifying session are back up. Fortunately, we were able to nip that one in the bud there. Now, on to the discussion very quickly here about Nye Roberts. He'll be competing after a long hiatus from sim racing here on ACC, back into the world of GT3. And the last time, according to SimGrid, that Nye Roberts competed was all the way back, and this is a long time coming, Season 4 of the TRR Sprint Series. That was nearly 2 years ago now. So it has been a long, long time since Nye Roberts was last on our radar. And actually, I seem to distinctly remember in the very early days of TRR, because fun fact, of course, where else would we be getting the name from? We are, of course, the last vestiges of the True Racing Revival sim racing community. But back when we ran AC races, we got to our 3rd season, the M235i Cup. Nye Roberts, I'm pretty sure, was the man who won that. So he knows a thing or two about his BMWs, this one. And it is very, very nice to see such a old name again. Really, it's a bit of a culture shock for us here, but Roberts back in the competition as he crosses the line there, 18th fastest. Looking at the rest of the field now at large as we get towards the halfway mark of qualifying today. Tyler Vermack now pushed away by 0.3 of a second to the fastest time so far, still held onto by the reigning champion of Season 3. Heading into Season 4 then, the number 1 of Melvin Milliston. George Todd in 3rd, and he's looking fired up for his first full season in the Sunday League, and he's currently ahead of Sam Angel right now in the pit lanes there, just on looking for the drivers heading down towards the line. Christian LeBay, Season 1's champion, and now 4 seasons on the trot here in competition. Never skipped a beat in the 119. He's back in for Season 4 and currently 5th fastest, not too far away from Sam Angel in 4th place. You can see towards the back of the top 5, it's the war of the retro machines here. 2 Lexuses versus an Aston V12 Vantage. I'm getting a little bit nostalgic back for the times back in Season 2 when it was Jason Bush versus Christian LeBay for Season 2's championship. It was really quite something to behold. Further behind them, Kevin Quain with the Malwar Racing team, seemingly the prodigy, as it were, of Christian LeBay, has had a real turn-up in performance. We've seen this on a universal level, not just here in the Sunday League, but over on Competizione Performance League as well, where we've seen great improvements here from the 607. Heading into Season 4 of the Sunday League, he's looking very, very strong indeed. And on the topic of strong performances, we are quite pleasantly surprised with 3 rookies right now inside of that top 10 as we head towards the halfway mark of qualifying here in round 1 of the championship. Stefan Nicolai in 8th place, one of the newest signings to K1 Esports. He's got a lot to prove here in the wake of things, heading down towards the line, currently 8th fastest, not too far off from being in 7th place ahead of Quain, but across the line, no improvement over the last lap just gone. Looking further down the line, Cas van Veltzen. Now, we did say it was definitely some method to the madness in choosing Mercedes. We'll see how long realistically will that take to pay off. We know how strong of a candidate he is on that field. We know just how competent of a driver he can be on his day. We saw it in Ford. We saw it with Porsche. I have no doubts in my mind we'll be seeing it here with Mercedes. So there is definitely some logic behind this sudden move away from Porsche. At the back of that top 10 at the moment, then James Mason, and then behind him his fellow teammate, the 44 of Scott Milbank. JM Quito with Holcianos competes in the Rookies Championship, the newest addition to the Holcianos lineup, or one of 2 actually, as a matter of fact. We'll touch on that in just a moment's time. He competes in 12th right now, and ahead of Ben Cheeseman in 13th, Sergio Belda 14th, and Kyle Jenkins in 15th. Alexander Hivrich in 16th place there in the number 9, one of the other rookies here in this dark green and gold coloured McLaren, on his way down through the final sector. Ivan Sanchez with Holcianos in 17th. Nye Roberts, we mentioned earlier on, 18th still. Behind him is Fran Sanchez, another new addition to the Holcianos lineup across the line, the number 7, up to 17th, then ahead of Hivrich and Roberts. We can see a returning name all the way back from Season 1 of the Sunday League. That's Daniel Richards. He's been 2 seasons out and will once more compete in the Rookies Championship, this time in a very unorthodox choice, but we've been seeing somewhat of a renaissance for Bentley over the last couple of months here across the board on console ACC, and today is no exemption. Daniel Richards will compete in Season 4 with Bentley in the 450. Down the line, we've got Corey Aiken. Or Corey Aiken. I'm still trying to work my way around that. Do feel free to pitch in at any time. He's currently 21st and ahead of Joel Villager in 22nd. Kenneth Reher, 23rd. Andrew Veldkamp in 24th. Dozer Powers in 25th. Looking back up to that front, though, it's Vermac in the middle of things, with the reigning champion still on pole position with 8 minutes left to go. Behind them, George Todd looking to be a season challenger. We were making the claims last season, in the limited time we got to understand the performance of the number 12, that he was definitely a likely candidate for a championship fight in his own regards if he were to run the full season. Well, now is the perfect staging point for George Todd. He's currently 3rd fastest, really not too far away in the way of things to Tyler Vermac, to being on that front row, to being in those front row seats to try for that race lead right off of the bat. We've seen how lively race starts can be here in Indianapolis. Today will definitely be no exemption to that rule. And looking back in a balance of performance, we stay on board here with George Todd on his way down towards turn 15. And actually, he used to run the number 25, so I found that quite interesting that the number 25 driver of George Todd moved to number 12 right around the same time that Tyler Vermac took the number 25. Just a funny little coincidence there we see. And speaking of Vermac, he claws the gap ever closer to pole position, now in that last lap, having moved it to within 0.04 of a second to Melvin Milliston's leading time, a 1:35.567 to beat for pole position today. We're still on board with George Todd, just bringing up then back once more the balance of performance statistics. Ferrari are really going to be on the back end of it, and it's no different for Ford either. So for Vermac and Todd, they'll be finding not much comfort in the BOP statistics for round 1 of the championship. You can see right now it's done very little to deter their stride up towards the fastest time. Right now, those 3 separated from anywhere else on the field by a minimum of 0.3 of a second. That'll be to Sam Angel in 4th. That'll be one to watch over the course of round 1 of the championship. You see, though, Todd pulling it to one side. And we know that the Ferrari can be a little bit flaky under specific circumstances. It is a bit of a Goldilocks kind of car. So with this heavier set balance of performance, I have no doubt in my mind that a driver like George Todd, as experienced as he is with this machine, is going to be finding himself in a little bit of an awkward spot. We saw last season, though, when I believe Todd did compete here in Indianapolis, that he did have a pretty solid time out. Just touching back on the battle of pole position, now held by Tyler Vermack, 242 thousandths of a second up the road, emerging from behind him there. That's the number 5 of Stefan Nikolai, currently in 9th place. Down towards the line next to the number 450, Daniel Richards across the line from 20th. Across the brickyard he goes, but remains there. Behind him, you can see, is Nye Roberts. Remains in 19th place from behind them. You can see the number 719 of Sam Angel. And now this is a very peculiar story to pick back up with here. This is Sam Angel in the 719, one of 2 Lexuses in the championship. And mind you, the first time in about 2 seasons that we've seen Lexus compete in proper form on this grid. The last time out, of course, who could forget? It was Jason Bush, the Rocket Man of the Sunday League, who went home to take the Season 2 championship. Could we be seeing the inklings of that out of our 2 new rookies in that top 10 at the moment, both Zsolt Beefgartner and Sam Angel? Now, we've seen Beefgartner's prowess in endurance racing before, but we've not got a lot of information to hand on what he's capable of in sprint races. And for Sam Angel, well, this is a completely new name on our desks here at TRTN, so this is going to be a delightful opportunity to see what the 719 can do in the white-knuckle world of the NLRL Sunday League. With 4 minutes left to go then in qualifying, it's Vermack from Milliston from Todd on an indomitable stride across that top 3. Vermack having opened the taps up now to put himself 0.6 of a second ahead of George Todd at the back of the podium. Moreover, he's 2/10 up the road from Melvin Milliston. The most recent change we've seen there was inside of the top 5, Zsolt Beefgartner, now up and ahead of Sam Angel in the time we were following the 719. The 599 now up to 4th. And you can see barely by anything there. That is about 0.09 of a second, dividing the 2 Lexus cars at the back of the top 5. So this is incredibly narrow stuff at the early parts of the championship here. And really that compelling story we're seeing is with 3 of those rookies in that top 10. We've got very staple names here. Drivers who have been around for, in some cases, the entire history of the championship. Look at for example, your Christian LeBays, or perhaps even for, look at your Melvin Millistons as well, as he's taken, I think he's been around for, I want to say 3 seasons. No, he has actually been around for 4 seasons. He took his first race win over in Season 1, Round 4, second race win, Season 2, Round 1, and then in Season 3 took 5 of those race wins to put himself at the all-time win record here in the NLRL Sunday League. Looking at that, he leads ahead of Wesley Kuiper and Jason Bush. Wesley Kuiper, who precariously enough held for the longest time the joint all-time win record despite never getting a championship. Jason Bush, of course, the Season 2 champion. We've also seen a very recent rise out of Tyler Vermack, who's now in that 4th position on the overall charts for most amount of race wins. Cas van Veltzen not too far off from catching him either. 3 minutes left to go then. And right now with Melvin Milliston on his last lap, getting the gap ever closer, 160 thousandths of a second between himself and Tyler Vermack. It could go any which way between the championship rivals of Season 3 as it now spills over into another chapter of racing here in the Sunday League as we enter Season 4. Milliston with the championship under his belt, Vermack out for revenge. George Todd seemingly an onlooker from 3rd place at the moment as he stands liable to losing out of position to the advancing Lexus pair of Zsolt Beefgartner and Sam Angel, 4th and 5th. They're competing from the Rookies Championship, but to be in the top 5 overall is a very strong precedent, especially given the choice of machine. Down towards the line, though, we're just following here with George Todd. In front of him was Daniel Richards across the line in the 450. But as Todd crosses the line, no improvement over that last lap. So he's got functionally, if he really gets a wriggle on here, about 2 more laps here in Indianapolis before the end of his time in qualifying. Tyler Vermack is into the pit lane in the 25 car, so he's left himself hanging in the wind, as it were, with Melvin Milliston still out on track on his way down towards turns 13, 14, and 15. We've seen recent improvements there from the number 39, that's Corey Aiken, in the Ferrari 296. As he now moves up to 16th place. From behind him, we can see the number 7 and the number 607. That's Fran Sanchez and Kevin Quain. Quain most recently splitting the tides there of the 2 Lexus cars to put his Ford in the middle of that battle of the last of the top 5. Currently furthest up the order for any of the Malwa Racing team cars. Of course, Malwa Racing took the team's championship on its first ever running, and it was introduced for Season 3 of the Sunday League, and they're looking to keep that reputation lively, especially with the number of drivers and number of teams, for that matter, mounting to meet them for this season coming. Melvin Milliston, though, calls it quits on his qualifying endeavours, and you can see by barely anything with it there. That is infinitesimally small up front. 15 thousandths of a second. To put some context to that, the average human reaction time is in and around, I think it's 150 to 200 milliseconds. The blinking time is anywhere between 100 and 110 milliseconds. So between those two, it is quite literally blink and you'll miss it on the front row. George Todd in third place looks to also have retired to the pit lanes here, leaving Sam Angel and Zolt Beefgartner, the last of the top 5 drivers, still with a point left to prove here. As we can also see, most recent advances have put Beefgartner back up and ahead of Quain. We can see Sam Angel into the wall there at the end of qualifying. That's the end of the line for the 719, but nothing to scoff at as he'll start on the second row with Beefgartner in tow there. We can see down towards the line here with just enough time for one more blast here in Indianapolis as the sun continues to set here on what is relatively grey and dreary conditions in Indianapolis. Across the line goes Kevin Quain, but he's decided that he's had enough there. And with only 19 thousandths of a second between himself and a top 5 start, he's content with 6th place. Christian LeBay still out on track. He's got enough for one more run around Indianapolis as we come to the end of qualifying. Crossed the line a moment ago, just beating the clock there, the number 710. That's one of the rookie drivers, currently down in 24th. Actually, no, he didn't beat the time. That was Kenneth Reher, and he'll be starting in 24th place. So next towards the line on a valid flying lap. I was about to say valid flying lap, but I've just seen there the number 98 of Joel Villager just got invalidated out through turn 12. So trouble for the Ferrari. He's currently down in 21st position. We'll be starting alongside Daniel Richards and Andrew Veldkamp towards the back of today's field. Catch back on board with the next car to the line as we see coming into the pits is Villager in the number 98. So the 114 is next on our radar here. Ben Cheeseman, a staple name of the NLRL Sunday League. The McLaren number 114 just outside of the top 10. But you can see K1 Esports having drivers there 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th with Nikolai, Mason, Milbank and Cheeseman. So by all accounts, a pretty strong start here to get the majority of the drivers inside of that top 50%. So down towards the line comes Cheeseman. Can he break the mold amongst his teammates here? As across the line he goes, and actually with the reintroduction of Kevin Quain, who had a bit of a disconnect problem there, and is actually looking more like 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. But nonetheless, great hustle by the K1 Esports team down towards the line, but they'll be starting on the back end of that top 10. Next to the line comes the 119 then, and with just enough in the tank for one more flying lap, let's see how it comes to a close here for Christian LeBay. Down towards the line, does he get up and ahead of Quain? Yes, he does, up to 6th place there in the 119 Aston Martin, reuniting himself with the tide of retro machines up front, the 2 Lexus cars on 4th and 5th place. It's looking to be a very spicy starting grid for round 1 of the championship. Hopefully no more disconnect problems for us here on TRTN. Again, apologies for that earlier on. But what it has given us is a very close look as to how the championship could be carrying out over the course of the next 10 rounds. With Tyler Vermack and Melvin Milliston still close as ever, an inseparable pairing, and it's been the story of those two since Season 3. Are we about to see another Vermack v Milliston championship? Only time will tell. Looking at where we'll be then over the course of the season, and also we'll be getting into the topic of the news in a moment's time. As you can see right now, we're here in Indianapolis for an hour of racing, then the first of our double sprints with that brand new double sprint pit stop system, that stop and drop as it were, for Valencia at round 2 of the championship. That'll be coming up on the 2nd of November, next Sunday then. So, on to the news, and only 2 articles of news this time around, but still quite interesting for those of you interested in rally like myself. Right now, the first bit of news comes through from the world of the World Rally Championship. M Sport 4 doubles down for their 2027 commitments. They remain on their ambition to develop a new car for 2027, and that faith remains unshaken for the time being. They've turned down options to upgrade their Fiesta Rally 2 platform for competition, and the choice of car, though, remains unconfirmed. Whether it will remain as the Ford Puma or be moved to another Ford model is a mystery that will be more likely than not answered by at least 2026, where the Puma could be seeing the last of its season of competition in the World Rally Championship. Ford historically have preferred the smallest models in their lineup for their rally platforms, and over the last 30 years this has been the Escort, the Focus and the Fiesta. The Puma being a crossover fit the bill as their successor, but could there be a new one at the Ford M Sport team? Only time will tell, as they are set to carry on into the coveted 2027 regulation wave. Next bit of news then comes from the world of sim racing. Kuno Simulazione announced at the Sim Racing Expo most recently their ambitions to develop a new title, Assetto Corsa Rally. They partnered with Supernova Game Studios to develop this title, which will be releasing on early access this November. Ships with 2 stage locations, Alsace and Wales, featuring a variety of cars from a variety of eras, including but not limited to cars such as the original Mini, the Lancia Delta Integrale and the Hyundai i20 Rally 2, among several others. Well, with the news segment over, we're in for night racing then for the opening round of the championship here in Season 4 of the NLRL Sunday League, powered by Malwa Transport. And getting us onto that topic post-haste here is the discussion of today's grid. An incredibly close front row to kick off Season 4 between Tyler Vermack and Melvin Milliston. The 25 on his move to Ford, away from where he had normally been more than comfortable with McLaren over the course of the last season and a half there, now starts on top of the timing charts and moreover at front of this 25 car pack for round 1 of the championship. Melvin Milliston in second place, then off by 15 thousandths of a second, incredibly close between the pair to kick off the season. Right behind them, though, is George Todd in the number 12 Ferrari, who was a very strong competitor from back in Season 3. This is his first full season, and he'll be carrying that ambition with him alongside the cars in 4th and 5th. Right along with him, Sam Angel and Zolt Beefgartner, 2 of the highest up for the charts of rookies in the opening qualifying session. They find themselves 4th and 5th, both behind the wheel of the Lexus Oh my word, I can't remember. Lexus RCF. I almost said the Lexus LFA, I wish. No, the Lexus RCF. Joining them on the topic of retro machines as ever is the 119 Aston Martin V12 Vantage of the Season 1 champion, Christian Lebay, who rounds out that top 3 row. Well, that third row, I should say. Behind him on the 4th row, Kevin Quain, his teammate of the Malwa Racing team, and he's joined in 8th place with Cass Van Veltzen. Stefan Nicolai on his first drive for K1 Esports in the Rookies Championship starts 9th and ahead of season resident regular, the 413 of James Mason. He starts just ahead of Scott Milbank and Ben Cheeseman on that 6th row. JM Quito in 13th ahead of Alexander Hivrich in 14th. He's ahead of Sergio Belda in 15th with Corey Aiken in 16th place. Ivan Sanchez in 17th ahead of Kyle Jenkins, with Fran Sanchez in 19th and Nye Roberts rounding out the top 20. Daniel Richards in 21st, Joel Villager in 22nd, Andrew Veldkamp in 23rd, Kenneth Reher in 24th, and rounding out the 25-car grid for round 1 of the championship, Dozer Powers in the number 35 Ford Mustang. It's going to be a lively one here, and we've not been disappointed every time we've been to Indianapolis. It has been wild, and it has been brutal by all accounts. No matter the category, things can and will get lively here at the home of American motor racing, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But very rare is it we get the opportunity to cover nighttime racing here in Indy. We've seen the sun set over Indianapolis. Very rare have we been without it, though, over the course of any race of any length. Rest assured, this is going to be an exciting one. An hour coming up on the charts here. Looking back to those event regs, of course, coming up. We've just come out of the 20 minutes of qualifying for round 1 of the championship. Of course, 1 mandatory pit stop for fuel only. 25 seconds minimum refueling time for what is coming up on being a 60-minute race here for round 1 of the championship here in Season 4. It's going to get lively. And with a 30-second given then, the 30-second warning given, I should say, we'll be getting on board with the man leading our formation lap. Tyler Vermack, who was so close to a championship back in Season 3, will start atop this field for round 1 of the championship to kickstart his hopes to one day bring home the championship proper. Was so close, but one post-race investigation scattered his chances for Season 3. Well, rest assured, he won't get fooled again. The 25 then kickstarts our formation lap. Following in tow is the Season 3 champion, sporting the number 1 and the silver placard there behind him, Melvin Milliston, the McLaren 720S. And then Ferrari in 3rd there, that's George Todd, and he's looking to be a very likely candidate for the Season 4 championship fight. So we've seen already a very strong qualifying session from the number 12. The Mexican driver looking to etch his name into the history books here of the NLRL Sunday League. Down towards turn 1 we go then, on board with Tyler Vermack. But let's get a look down through the field. You can see here's Sergio Belda in and amongst what is coveted as the danger zone for today's grid. That sort of 10th place down to, I'd say, probably to 20th hereabouts, where we could see the bulk of our collisions, especially running down to this very tight opening sector. Sergio Belda on his move over to Ford, and he's among several drivers to have made moves across manufacturers. Both of the returning Hulkianos cars, both him and Ivan Sanchez, have moved away from the confines of Ferrari, moving over to BMW and Ford respectively. This is going to be an ambitious new chapter for Hulkianos with their first full season in the team's championship. So they have a great chance here to challenge the likes of K1 Esports and Malwar Racing as they finished last season in third. Looking further down the line here, we can see in the middle of the top 10, it's Christian Lebay backing onto a very familiar sight, one that I imagine is invoking quite a few memories of Season 2 for him there, as up in front of him are two Lexus RCFs, the 599 of Zolt Beefgartner and the 719 of Sam Angel. Two of the rookies for Season 4 have set quite a precedent for the opening qualifying session, ahead of Quain, ahead of Lebay, and ahead of Van Veltzen. Looking on board here, we have one pit lane start, rather unfortunately, and that's for James Mason. The 413 BMW starts from the pit lane for round 1 of the championship here in Season 4, the NLRL Sunday League, making his way down towards turn 13. This could be make or break here. We have seen starts go incredibly well and incredibly poorly at Indianapolis, both in and out of the Sunday League. On our third ever visit here to the heart of American motor racing, could we be seeing history repeat itself, or are we in for, as what seems to be a string of things here, a brand new chapter? Fresh beginnings for our drivers here, 25 in all, 24 on track and 1 from the pit lane. We stay on board though with Tyler Vermack as we go rolling down towards the start-finish line here. The last remaining yard-long strip of what was 3.2 million bricks that once lined the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in its genesis years of the Indy 500 now marks the start-finish line for the opening round here of Season 4, the NLRL Sunday League, powered by Malwar Transport and live exclusively on TRTN. We begin that slow procession, the march as it were, onto certain doom or certain glory here in the opening round of the championship, with the clean slate for the championship here for Season 4. It's all to play for, and it starts today as we're green and racing an hour against the clock here in Indianapolis, and already a brilliant start by Melvin Milliston on Tyler Vermack. You can see another fantastic start. That's in the top 5, 3 abreast, 2 Lexuses and a Ferrari for good company down towards turn 1 though, but Tyler Vermack continues to lead ahead of Milliston. George Todd runs wide, but looks to lose ground to Zolt Beefgartner. It's contact down the line between the pair. Let's get a look at that on the replays, and you'll not have to skip a beat here, as you can still see the fight. There's even more contact in our little replay screen there in the bottom right, this time between Milliston and Vermack. It's disaster up on the front row, giving rise to a lead by George Todd, and looking to surf his way through the masses here appears to be Christian Lebay. As we cut back on board to our main feed here, Vermack now pushed down a peg. Much to the chagrin of Melvin Milliston, the number 1 car starts second from last now. The nearest car to him looks to be James Mason. As we can see 3 abreast here. Todd v Vermack v Lebay down towards turn 8, in tow of them as well. You can see as Cass Van Veltzen's Mercedes surfing up the inside at turn 8 on Christian Lebay. George Todd all over the backside of Tyler Vermack, who now leads after a chaotic start here in Indianapolis. Unbelievable stuff there. 2 incidents for the price of 1. One between Todd and Beefgartner, the other between Vermack and Milliston. Already, hands are bloodied, elbows are out, and the championship is firmly underway here, as we can now see a brand new top 4. Tyler Vermack, though, the only constant variable of which he's fought with his elbows out there, much to the chagrin of the cars around him and much to the great attention of race control. He leads the charge ahead of George Todd, Cass Van Veltzen 3rd, and Christian Lebay in 4th. Stefan Nicolai in 5th, with Kevin Quain in 6th place by just less than a second there. And I believe Sam Angel into the pit lane, so trouble for one of the Lexus cars. We can see further down the line, looks to be some side-by-side action much further down the line. This is between Kyle Jenkins and Andrew Veldkamp. You can see getting his hands full though, getting it 3 abreast down towards turn 1. That is Zolt Beefgartner. We saw him taken out at the start of the race, but already the Hungarian back on the charge in the 599 Lexus. And a brilliant move there, 2 for the price of 1. Started from behind Veldkamp and surfed it all the way past Jenkins. A brilliant move there by the Lexus. Looking around the road here, we see Melvin Milliston already getting his elbows out, up and alongside Scott Milbank, already up and ahead of Milbank and Kenneth Reher. Now looking at Sergio Belda in 20th place. Looking here in our top 5, Stefan Nicolai rounds out the top 5 as the only remaining rookie in the charge there. So a brilliant start for the number 5. The Romanian finds himself as the furthest up the order in the rookie championships right now after the first lap. Looking on board here with Stefan Nicolai as he stares up the backside of quite a few veteran drivers here. Cas van Velzen, Christian Lebay, George Todd and Tyler Vermaak, the top 4. Looking down towards turn 13, you can see how much time that Nicolai is losing in that McLaren in the open straights here, especially away from the V12 Vantage and the Mercedes up front. Right now, we're still on board, though, with the McLaren making his way down towards turn 15. This could be a very ambitious start to one's racing endeavours here in Season 4 for Stefan Nicolai, as he finds himself not 1, but 2 cars involved in the fight for 3rd place, as he watches now a potential move here around the outside in the makings for Christian Lebay. This is for 3rd place over Cas van Velzen. Stefan Nicolai, if there is any kind of issue there, can surf his way up to 3rd in his own respect. He's still right with them by the time we hit turns 1 and 2. So we can see it's a high aero setup for Stefan Nicolai. It's going to put him in great stead heading into that middle and final sector, but here in the open straights down through towards turn 1, we're actually out through turn 4 now, heading towards turn 5 and 6. We'll see as they exit turn 7, he'll be left vulnerable again with that high downforce setup, giving him nothing in the way of straight line speed, especially when put toe-to-toe with the Aston Martin V12 Vantage. One of the fastest, if not the fastest cars in the history of the NLRL Sunday League, the only heel to the Lexus RCF. You can see right away he's just dropping time despite being in that slipstream. There's no chances right now, bar an accident, that Stefan Nicolai can worm his way into that 3rd place fight right now. He's just hanging around the back end of Cas van Velzen, but it's a great start by the number 5 down in the Rookies Championship. Melvin Milliston, though, a man on a mission. Now, in the last time we saw him, he was chasing Sergio Belda. He's now up ahead of not only Sergio Belda, but Kyle Jenkins and Corey Aiken, as he now chases and is nearly up past there by the looks of it. Yes, he's back with Corey Aiken, as there was a bit of a snafu up the road for the 450. That's Daniel Richards with Bentley down in the Rookies Championship. First time we've seen him in over 2 seasons, as a matter of fact. He was last here in Season 1 of the Sunday League, right back in the Genesis races. He was a fantastic driver in his day, but now making his return after 2 seasons away from the field. We see him now under siege by the reigning Season 3 champion. Up the inside, though, look at that, the number 39 there, Corey Aiken, one of the new rookies on the field, gets turned around, though, as he puts himself over the nose of the number 1 of Melvin Milliston. He backs himself up onto Kyle Jenkins, right behind the pair of them as well. There you can see a Sergio Belda at the back of what was the top 20. He's now pushed up to 19th. Much to the chagrin there of the 39. You can see now backed up behind the BMW of Scott Milbank by quite some distance. It is absolute maelstrom here. Belda side by side with Jenkins down towards turn 1. We're watching for the point of view of Melvin Milliston. There is all manner of thing going on at the back of that top 20, but I want to try and get a look here up with the front just to see what the state of affairs is looking like. We can see at the back of the top 10, Nye Roberts versus JM Keto. 2 new drivers there with 2 more new drivers up the road, Sam Angel and Alexander Hivrich. So it wasn't trouble for Angel. I said it was trouble for Angel earlier. No, not the case. Side by side and a bit of rubbing there between JM Keto and Nye Roberts. The BMW and the Ferrari jostling for position of 10th place down towards 8. In towards turn 9, but we'll have to cut away from them as we do have yellow flags. It's for the 74 car in imminent trouble here. Let's see if we can catch on board with them as they get going. And that's Sergio Belda. Back in the green flag conditions, this has not been the kind of news that Belda wanted to see in today's race. Now forced down to 20, I think that was 23rd or 24th place. We can see Daniel Richards now right up to the back end of Melvin Milliston. Now the Bentley is a very peculiar machine by all accounts. One thing that it gives back in droves is straight line speed. So sticking himself to the back end of the McLaren could be a great opportunity for him to retake 16th place off of Milliston, or perhaps surf his line up into the next rookie up the road, the 35 of Dozer Powers with Ford Motor Company. Looking up the field, we can see that Cas van Velzen and Stefan Nicolai have now swapped places. Van Velzen to the back of the top 5 after nearly 10 minutes of racing. Nicolai up into 4th. Lebay still in 3rd. Todd 2nd. Vermaak leads here in Indianapolis. There is absolutely no stopping in sight here for Melvin Milliston. Scorned by that incident down at turns 3 and 4. He is on a mission here. Bear in mind, still has a minimum 25-second stop for his pit lane run here in Indianapolis, of which we'll expect to see in about 22 minutes time here. The bulk of it coming up at the exact halfway mark. Let's see if we can get a look on board, though, with our top... I want to say, actually, behind our top 5, as we were seeing in the background of watching on board with Van Veltzen and Nikolai. A very close fight going on here outside of the top 5. Kevin Quain versus Ben Cheeseman. Right behind them, Sam Angel and Alexander Hivrich. This could be a very juicy one indeed on their way down towards turn 13. Out of turn 12, they're running wide. The 114, a little bit of aero wash for Ben Cheeseman in his efforts to pursue Kevin Quain's number 607 Ford Mustang. Up the road, you can see that faint blue and yellow, the number 420. That's Cas Van Veltzen with Mercedes. They've spread out massively in that top 5. You can see the gaps on the minimap there as they go down the opening straight. Quite a considerable chunk of time between the top 5 drivers. The closest gap of them, Van Veltzen to Nikolai. We're seeing from behind here. Yellow flags are out. It's down for Sector 3, the number 35 in trouble. But we are seeing a fight here between Sam Angel and Ben Cheeseman as we go back into green flag conditions. But there is that rolling yellow flag for Sector 3, the number 35 in serious trouble. We'll stay on board, though, with the McLaren of Ben Cheeseman, making his way currently down through turns 3, 4, and 5. Right on his tail, though, one of the new drivers on the block, Sam Angel, in the 719 Lexus RCF. Up front, though, we can see great improvement for Kevin Quain. Still inside of the top 10 here, as we see Sam Angel look up the inside. It's a bit of a squeeze here, and giving him the space is Ben Cheeseman, playing hard but fair between the pair of them as they enter the back straight on the run between turns 7 and 8. Who will emerge, though, up the inside? You see Cheeseman holding the left-hand side of the track, forcing that Lexus to run around the outside here, but that can also play quite nicely into the hands of Sam Angel, as we've seen several such cases before where drivers can surf around the outside to put themselves up the inside on the next corner. Yellow flags out for the 450 and the 113. Kyle Jenkins and Daniel Richards in trouble after turn 7. We're still watching, though, with Ben Cheeseman in what is an incredibly tight fight with Sam Angel in the 719. This is for 7th place as they enter turn 13 in towards turn 14, getting the better of 2 lines in through turn 13, now to turn 14. Can Angel find his way around Ben Cheeseman? He knows straight line speed is to the Lexus' side here, and this is definitely going to be one of the pressing worries for Ben Cheeseman as he runs a little bit wide out through turn 15, but he's using all of the momentum that he can conserve in that McLaren to keep himself up in front in the fight of 7th. Running down towards turn 1, you can see opening the taps, 5.4 litre Toyota co-engineered V8 engine in that Lexus, giving Sam Angel absolutely every ounce of oomph down the opening straight. All of this, mind you, is inviting in. You can see from behind there the 26 of Alexander Hivrich. And right now, up the order, up into 7th place goes Sam Angel, much to the chagrin of Ben Cheeseman, now dropping down to 8th. So Cheeseman previously found himself in that scrap for 7th place. Could it be a case now he's going to have to start looking more defensively as Alexander Hivrich continues his conquest up inside of that top 10? He could be looking right now at a defensive scrap for 8th place. With that Lexus out in the open air, there is very little keeping Sam Angel close. And you can see it demonstrated right away on the exit of turn 7. That Lexus is one of the fastest cars on ACC. Now, this is sampling data taken all the way back in Season 2 at the then cancelled Monza round. You can see that Lexus is that joint second fastest car in terms of overall straight line speed. Now, these are on quite low downforce setups, but it still lays the precedent bare that we have quite a few fast cars involved on this grid. Chief among them, the Aston Martin V12 Vantage of Christian Lebay, currently finding himself in 3rd place right now after nearly 20 minutes running off the track there at turn 13. That was Alexander Hivrich in the number 9. So with the battle of 7th seemingly over for Ben Cheeseman, he is really up against it, because with the Lexus able to do 4 more miles an hour at the top end compared to his McLaren, he's not got many options in the way of things, especially as he heads down the opening straight here in Indianapolis. Nearly 20 minutes into racing today. We're a little over the 10-minute mark, and what an opening we have already seen before our very eyes. Tyler Vermack leads in the number 25 car ahead of George Todd in 2nd, Christian Lebay in 3rd. It was a very messy start indeed, and we're still seeing fighting going on, as most recently up to 4th goes Cas Van Veltzen over Stefan Nikolai. Very close scrapping there towards the back of the top 5 between the two, and you can see it's a story of fundamentally different setups between the 420 and the number 5. You can see it all in the straights there and all in the corners. It's a high downforce downforce number 5 versus a medium to low downforce number 420. And this is a fantastic little dichotomy to study in terms of the effectiveness of setups over the course of a sprint race championship. So if you want to start taking notes there, here's your opportunity. Looking further down the line as we stay on board with the fight of 4th place between Stefan Nicolai and Cas van Velzen. In 6th place is Kevin Quain, and in 7th place, most recently moving up past Ben Schiessman, is Sam Angel in the 719 Lexus. Ben Schiessman down to 8th place then, and backed up onto his fellow McLaren there, and also a rookie driver, Alexander Hivrich, in the number 9. Zolt Beefgartner rounds out the top 10 by not too far away at all. You can see not too far off, actually now since up and ahead of Hivrich to 9th place. JM Quito following very, very closely to get a chance here on the number 9. Back on board though right now with Van Velzen v Nicolai. As you look up the inside there, down towards turn 14, goes for the number 5, a little bit of contact between himself and the 420. Van Velzen won't be happy about that one, but he knows he'll get it all the way back here down towards turn 1. As he exits turn 15, he's in the slipstream here. He knows he's got the faster car on setup. He knows that the Mercedes can give him just a little bit more oomph in a straight line, and it's all going to be assisted by that slipstream. Heading down towards turn 1, you can see covering up the inside, Stefan Nicolai is going to force Cas van Velzen around the outside, but this is not something you want to tempt Van Velzen with, because he is one of the bravest drivers for around the outside sends, and that is exactly what he does. This is trademark by the 420, and you can see it has thrown an absolute curveball in the face of Nicolai, very nearly spinning that McLaren out through turn 2 and 3. Back on board then with Van Velzen. We look further down the line past Hivrich and Quito here. We can see at the back of the top 10. Nye Roberts right behind them with Melvin Milliston still making his way back up through the field. 4.3 seconds away from that fight at the back of the top 10. Behind him is Ivan Sanchez and Fran Sanchez. 14th and 15th place for Holkianos Motorsports. Corey Aiken in the number 39, I should say, is in 16th place. The number 44 is what I was thinking of, is Scott Milbank right behind him there in 17th place. Andrew Velkamp in 18th, ahead of James Mason in 19th, very close by, mind you, in that scrap there for 18th place. Velkamp v Mason right now making his way around the Ferrari. I believe that to be, yes, that's Kenneth Reher down in 21st, currently having since served his first mandatory pit stop. You can see quite a few drivers having done that already, including Sergio Belda, Daniel Richards and Dozer Powers. Joel Villager at the back of the top 25. Looking back up into our top 10 here, we can see things are getting spicy for 10th place. JM Quito versus Alexander Hivrich. The two rookies go head-to-head. Further up the road is Zolt Beefgartner, better known for his exploits alongside Adam Saunders, Brandon Roos and Connor Letford over at the Tempest Motorsports team. They find themselves in 9th place, far, far away from this fight here at the back of the top 10. Hivrich, Quito, and looking there is Nye Roberts as well in the number 11. First time seen here on TRTN since the end of the sprint series. It's a long time coming here for Roberts to be within a fight of the top 10. Better late than never for the number 11. Down towards turn 1, he's right at the back end at the moment of JM Quito. This is in the fight for 11th place down through turn 1. That BMW is looking very, very lively. A great start to today's race, mind you, for Nye Roberts as we get in towards that quarter of an hour mark here in Indianapolis. Looking towards what is still one of the closest developing gaps here, Stefan Nicolai versus Cas van Velzen. These two have traded hands here for 4th place several times over the course of today's race, and all of that pushing and shoving you can see is slowly inviting in a looming presence here. Kevin Quain and Sam Angel, the two black and red heavyweights, 5.4 litre V8 monsters of this grid, making their way down towards turn 8. The Ford Mustang and the Lexus RCF. Right behind them is Ben Schiessman in the 114 Zolt Beefgartner. We can see not too far away at all. And then back on with our fight here in 10th, 11th and 12th. JM Quito versus Nye Roberts. You can actually see it's now just got up and ahead of him there, down on the run through turns 8, 9 and 10. So great move there by Nye Roberts. Blink and you'll miss it. Now we see immediately arriving on the scene the number 1 of Melvin Milliston. He's been on the warpath since that incident on lap 1. Now getting up past JM Quito up to 12th place. This has got to be a frightening sight if you're Tyler Vermack up in that leading number 25. Just seeing how quickly that the number 1, after an incident that knocked him all the way down towards the back of the field, has quickly been nullified here as he's about to re-enter the top 10. Next in his iron sights, Nye Roberts in 11th place. This is feral work by Melvin Milliston. You can see there, really not too far up the road at all, that dark green and gold number 9 McLaren. That's Alexander Hivrich. And that marks the top 10 right now. So there is a very visceral sign of an objective at hand here for Melvin Milliston. And with a less than ideal exit for both Hivrich and Roberts, this is giving him pretty much the red carpet treatment on his way down through Sector 1. You can see surfing the line from behind is JM Quito. This is brilliant stuff here as we enter the quarter hour mark. Nearly 20 minutes into this race, and we are far from over here in Indianapolis. Bear in mind, still got that one mandatory pit stop yet to follow, which we could be seeing in the next 12 minutes' time. Running wide in the background there, Nye Roberts falls onto the nose here, the 26 of JM Keto. Alexander Hivrich is not going to be feeling particularly the most hopeful here, especially seeing how quickly Milliston has carved the gap up to the top 10. This is going to be one that he's going to have to fend for here if he means to hold on to 10th place, but you can see it's really a case. That is a hydrogen bomb heading your way in the form of that number 1. A furious drive so far by Melvin Milliston. Looking right now, one of the closest gaps we're seeing here side by side, and then running very wide down into turn 13. That's the 719 of Sam Angel. The 607 taking great advantage of that, and it puts the 114 now alongside him. Ben Cheeseman looking to retake 7th place here off of Sam Angel. Has been able to capitalize on the mistake there by the Lexus as he makes his way out of turn 15, running down the opening straight back up to 7th for Cheeseman. You can see as well, far from over is the fight going on in front of them, but let's get on board with this here as opening the taps on that V8. Sam Angel looking for immediate clash back here on the 114, but falls back into the iron sights of his fellow Lexus, Zolt Beefgartner, who we saw caught up in that incident between himself and George Todd earlier on in today's race, is back in the fight. Down towards turns 3 and 4, we can see the number 35 there. That's Dozer Powers having to give way for the arrival of the Lexus cars, and that gives Zolt Beefgartner the best opportunity here to surf up past his fellow Lexus, now up and ahead of Angel and right onto the back end of Ben Cheeseman. So could it be 2 moves for the price of 1 sector heading down through turn 7? Here we go on the run down towards turn 8. This is a reinvigorated drive by Beefgartner when he really locks into it. We've seen him in the flow state before in an endurance race. He's got much less time to work with here over the grand scheme of things. 40 minutes left to go. Was looking there. You saw the ambition to get up the inside and get up inside the head of the 114, but just not this time around. Out through turns 9 and 10. He is really coming alive here in the dark of night at Indianapolis. We've seen that rise to dominance by all things V8 powered, so I am definitely taken aback to see inside of that top 10 no less than a V6 in the form of that Ferrari 296, the number 12, George Todd. You can see 5.1 seconds up the road from the V12. So the 2 unorthodox choices. It would be kind of naive to forget Aston Martin. We normally are used to seeing them with their 4-litre twin-turbo V8, the M177 motor, but this is, as a matter of fact, the V12 from the previous generation, the last of the 12 cylinders. And Aston Martin keeping that tradition alive in their LMDH endeavours with the Aston Martin Valkyrie, which most recently took a podium at the Petit Le Mans. Stefan Nicolai having dropped away a bit there from Cas van Veltzen. So that fight for 4th may be dying in the water as we head towards the halfway mark. Looking on board here with Kevin Quain. This is in the fight for 6th place, and it is a very lively one indeed. As you can see, careening up to the backside of the Mustang right now is Zolt Beefgartner, Sam Angel, and Ben Cheeseman in tow. 3's company on the run down towards turn 6. Staying on board with Quain, made that move through season 3 away from Aston Martin over towards Ford, and it has been a decision worth making for the Canadian talent, the sort of underdog, the, as it were, prodigy of Christian Lebay, who's been taken under his wing, much like we saw in his earlier time in the career for Tyler Vermack before leaving Maloir Racing before the start of season 4. See, this is sort of the next in the lineup here after Lebay for the Maloir Racing team. His second in command, as it were, his wingman in the 607. A damaged nose, mind you, as well on that Mustang, and he's able to do all of this, so that is very impressive for Kevin Quain. We saw his exploits over here in Indianapolis, actually behind the wheel of a 5-litre Jaguar XKG3 designed by Emil Frey Racing, which, funnily enough, went on to later use the Lexus RCFs, currently chasing him down for 6th place. As a matter of fact, that is the livery there on Zolt Beefgartner's car of Emil Frey Racing. Heading down towards the Brickyard, then you can see now caught up firmly in the slipstream of the Mustang. It's the battle of the V8s here, down towards turn 1 of the heart of American motor racing. Who has the superior 8-cylinder down towards the line? Is it the Ford Motor Company or is it Lexus? Down towards turn 1, sweeping high, goes Zolt Beefgartner up to 6th place over Kevin Quain. Now he's caught in a sandwich here between 2 Lexus cars. The newest generation V8 GT3 goes up against one of the oldest in circulation. Lexus, of course, and Toyota Gazoo Racing, their parent company, are set to replace the Lexus RCF in the next coming years with what they call the Lexus LFR. It seems to be a design eerily reminiscent of that of the more traditional long-nose European cars like the AMG and the Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Kevin Quain, though, you can see, was really getting pressured out of 6th place. He's now going to have to start considering his odds to defend for 7th as he's forced on the nose here. The 719, Sam Angel, looking for his chances once more to go around the outside, this time at turn 8. Gives him potentially a look at the inside at turn 9, but just a little too far away this time around. So we cut away here from Quain and Angel. Just to take a look further down the line, into the pit lane comes Scott Milbank in the 44. Also in the pit lane as well, Dozer Powers in the 35. You can see here one of the closest fights going on, Cheeseman and Milliston. Let's see if we can catch on board, as a matter of fact, because Cheeseman and Milliston aren't exactly just spectators to the fight in front. They are still absolutely with it. Sam Angel dives for the pit lane, so that brings an exciting new chapter into the swing of things here. Let's see if we can catch on board with Cheeseman or Milliston for that matter. You see here with Kevin Quain left by his lonesome, with Ben Cheeseman right behind. I believe having come into the pits then would be Melvin Milliston. Zolt Beefgarner there in the foreground makes his way up the road in the 599. There could yet be another fight here. Cheeseman is not one to shy away from a good fight here. With a 607 very clearly in sight, and with more damage than his McLaren, the chances remain likely for the 114 to come and have a go for 7th place before the end of his opening stint. We're seeing a lot more drivers get a bit more hesitant here. We're looking at closer to a 45-55, perhaps even a 40-60 strategy we see here for stints in round 1 of the championship. What I mean by that is that we see, usually in races, the drivers are feeling a lot more confident in where the conditions are on their side and they're able to play a little bit more tactically for tyre conservation and fuel. They usually go for what is a 60-40, 60% in the first stint, 40% in the second. So they usually give it for an hour-long race until about, say, 25 to 28 minutes before coming into the pit lane. It's a bit of a rough estimation, not an exact science. We do see, though, temporary yellow flags in place. That was for the 39. Let's see if we can go and catch on board with who that was in trouble. As a matter of fact, it's Corey Aiken in the number 39 Ferrari. Now down to 13th, and looks like some damage on the nose of the rookie driver. And towards turn 8, you can see there quite considerable amounts of scratching and damage over the front splitter on that Ferrari. So could there have been a wider incident for him down at turn 6? Only time will tell us different. George Todd right now 6 seconds away from Tyler Vermack. Vermack has had an absolute blinder start to this race, but it has been won quite firmly sullied by that opening incident between himself and Melvin Milliston. LeBay in 3rd. He will not be arguing starting the season on a podium. It's going to put him in one of the best staging points heading into the next couple of rounds, where we've seen the Aston Martin as a very strong contender in those sprint races, in those double sprint races, I should say, heading into Valencia at round 2 of the championship for the 2 runnings we'll have there. And with the brand new stop and drop pit stop style for the sprint races, this could be a very unique point for the drivers here, as it does introduce at least some semblance of strategy, but it's much closer to what you'd see in maybe Formula 1, where they're straight into the pits and almost immediately straight out. So it does just introduce that little bit of tacticianry into the sprint races, so that's going to be curious to see where that heads further down the line. We've seen in, though, the double sprint races before, that LeBay has been a very strong contender, and even still, surprisingly, 4 seasons in to his Sunday League career, LeBay has still yet to take a race win in that V12 Vantage. Well, I believe, and I've been saying this for a while, but I am really steadfast in my convictions that this season really could be the magic one here for Christian LeBay. He has had a very strong career over the course of the last couple of months, has racked up silverware like it's going out of style here. He's been collecting trophies like Pokemon on his way down towards turn 1 here in the 119. As a matter of fact, that dons a Chevrolet Camaro, of which he used to claim 2 GT4 championships in under 2 months. The Competizione Performance League GT4 Pro-Am Cup America Series, and then most recently the HCCL GT4 Challenge. So I think the chances are still absolutely there for the Aston Martin 119 to come through for a championship. Not for a championship, sorry, for a race win here. He's already done above and beyond. He's got a championship, but he still doesn't have a race win. I mean, it's a bizarre statistic when you look back at it here. But the fact that he's able to do all of that in the V12 Vantage, I've said this so many times before, but I'll say it again, is just a staggering feat of driving capacity. See here with Tyler Vermack still leading the charge here on his first drive officially representing the exclusive esports team, the number 25, on his way down towards turns 13, 14, and 15. Currently on the exit of turn 12 as he gets a little bit of the banking there on the Mustang. Will it be the considerations of a pit lane run here on lap 16 for the leading car? Mac, of course, looking to kick off his endeavours to immediately hunt down a championship after being denied such after the post-race rulings in Silverstone. He stays out on the run into lap 17. Now, looking down the line, we can see two drivers on separate lengths of the race here. Alexander Hivrich against a recently pitted Sergio Belda. Looking down towards turn 6. Belda's not giving way to Hivrich, not that he has to. It is the overtaking car's responsibility to make sure that the move is safe. But I imagine here, considering that he's not too far away from Scott Milbank, his hesitancy to get out of the way of a very quickly advancing Hivrich are going to be quite minimal. He has tried to move himself all the way to the left-hand side, but he's just stuck back onto the racing line, knowing that there's not enough room for him to give over Hivrich to not compromise his own chances of an extra position there up the road. Bear in mind, a lot of drivers still yet to have taken their pit stops. As we hit that halfway mark, there is still plenty more up for grabs here for the number 74, despite the way the race have been, the way the things have been for him in today's race. Trying to get the words out there, absolute struggle. So looking around the field once more as we hit that halfway mark, you can see in the pit lanes right now, Christian Lebay and Cas van Velzen, the Mercedes and the Aston Martin. You can see dropping off the jacks there. Goes the 119, so a great stop by Lebay as he now makes his way out of the pit lane. Also joining Van Velzen in the pit lane, you can see entering our site now, the 413 of James Mason. Also in the pit lanes as well, Nye Roberts in the number 11. Making his way out, there goes Cas van Velzen. So let's get a look on the overall charts here to see where things are looking, as it's been a big shake-up with the bulk of our pit stops coming in now. We've still got an emerging minority of drivers still yet to have made their way in. We can see among them is Alexander Hivrich making his way down towards turns 2, 3, and 4. Still right on the back end of the number 74 of Sergio Belda down in 20th place. We see George Todd, most recent to pull the trigger inside of that top 5. The 12 is in, leaving Vermac off by his lonesome at the lead of this race. You can see right behind him there, having emerged in what I believe right now is 6th place. That's set to update. It's there now. It drops down to 7th. Is Christian Lebay. Right now up to 2nd, and it has been a real story to remember here for Stefan Nicolai. Went toe-to-toe for quite some time, as a matter of fact, with the likes of Cas van Velzen. That is not an easy thing to do on your opening drive in the Sunday League. That is quite the impression to be made for the rookie sensation here. K1 Esports really making a name for himself early on. Well, now we did see it was a bit of a shaky start for Stefan Nicolai in terms of the grand scheme of events here on NLRL. We did get to see him with, I believe it was I want to say Team Raceline, but I might be incorrect on that. And that was over on the Console Endurance Series. Quite a mixed bag for the Team Raceline pairings over the course of round 1 of the championship. But now, since he seems to have shaken the shackles loose here and got himself by his lonesome in a sprint racing championship, Nicolai has really been able to put the hammer down. We'll see exactly where he lands after his pit lane run, but it's been otherwise a very strong start here. Will he be leading the rookie championships out of round 1? It looks very likely. But let's not be naive here and forget the obvious. The Lexus-shaped elephant in the room that is Zolt Beefgartner's performance today. He has been on the warpath, much like Melvin Milliston, who right now is not too far behind him at all. With Hivrich into the pit lane, they will be up to 8th place now for Beefgartner. Moreover, it puts Milliston back into the top 10. Vermac is in. So now, as he comes to a stop in his pit box, very recently there you heard the sound of that McLaren V8 soaring on past. So that's Milliston having unlapped himself from the 25. Will we be seeing the imminent arrival near to us now of George Todd, currently making his way down through turn 7? So that really goes lengths to describe the gap between himself and Vermac before those pit lane runs. Now, this is a gamble definitely worth playing for him here, but he needs to try and shake loose. Those are Powers, and I believe in front of him there, Sergio Belda, the two Mustangs currently backmarking traffic for the number 12. With Vermac now dropping off of his jacks, the chances remain very slim here for Todd to have found his way back up into contention. But with a very long run out of the pits, the chances are slim, but not impossible. See, it is a long run down Gasoline Alley. Ironic now, given the modern day pretenses of it, as modern day Indy cars use ethanol. Across the line, we see as Fran Sanchez and Corey Aiken, the two Ferraris in the Rookies Championship, go up and ahead of Tyler Vermack. Admittedly, they've yet to take their pit stop. So with Vermack still making his way to the timing, well, not to the timing line, sorry, the pit limit lines here. Now, as he just gets clear of it, you can see him merging onto the... What is going on here? What's going on here? Vermack has just stopped the car. Did he stall? Did he forget where the clutch was? Here comes George Todd. Could it be the race lead for the number 12? What happened there for the 25? That is bizarre. He has emerged ahead of the number 12, but boy, if he's not made the gap very thin with whatever on earth happened for him there. Did he forget which pedal was the accelerator? Never have I seen that before. He came to a full stop. Is this sandbagging? What is the method? What is Vermack cooking at this time with something like that? Because it would be a very, very tough suggestion to say that's anything besides an accident. Stefan Nikolai into the pits at the moment. Fran Sanchez second. Right behind him, Corey Aiken. This is a very close fight here for the remaining podium positions. Now, bear in mind, they've still both got to serve their pit stops, neither of which yet have relinquished to the pit lanes. You can see both of them nearly side by side on the run down towards turns 13 and 14, but on the run into the pits in a moment's time, you can see having the shallower of two lines has not played particularly nicely here for Fran Sanchez, and it forces Corey Aiken into the pit lane. Sanchez will have to go out for another lap here before they get their next possible chance. See here, Todd and Vermack really not too far away at all. They're on their way currently out through turn 14. We're going to have to catch on board with these two in a moment's time, as I believe we could be in for a very close fight coming up shortly for what is effectively the race lead. With Nikolai and Aiken in the pit lane, it leaves Fran Sanchez out by their lonesome, leading the charge here at round one. But provisionally for that lead is going to be Vermack v Todd, currently within a second of one another as they run down the opening straight as they start lap 20. And see here for Christian LeBay, it's a smooth surf up to fourth with Nikolai still on his way out of Gasoline Alley. 420 we can see reeling on past here. That's Cas Van Veltzen. Then following on his trails, Zolt Beefgaard and Melvin Milliston takes the fastest lap off of Tyler Vermack. Now to give you a refresher on the scoring system for this championship, a slight update from Season 3 now. The maximum points yield is 48 points over 43, with 45 points now up for grabs for just first place alone. 3 points still remain for the fastest lap, but as you can see there from first down to 10th, 45, 35, 30, 27, 24, 21, 18, 15, 12, and 10. Right now, Melvin Milliston being in 8th place with the 3 points for the fastest lap puts him on equal stead with the driver right in front of him. He'll be joint on points with Zolt Beefgaard and now Stefan Nikolai. Actually now, as a matter of fact, as we've seen all of the positions update, that'll be 21 points. So still, yeah, level on points with Beefgardner in front. Todd still incredibly close here with 25 minutes left to go in this race. It is far from over up on those what could be leading positions in a moment's time. Still yet to have seen any degree of hesitancy here from Fran Sanchez. Still out 21 laps strong. You can see in the background emerging there that purple Ford and quickly in tow the white, green and red of that Ferrari number 12. George Todd right on the trails here of Tyler Vermack. Down towards turn 1 they go. Let's cut away from them just quickly to see where our other nearest fights could be coming from. Now, at the last recorded interval, there was quite a lot of activity going on towards the back of our top 10, but that's quickly since dissipated. We're talking multiple seconds between drivers at the best of times here. Seeing it's a very lonely state of affairs. Drivers spread about on all different manner of the race at the moment, so our closest gap still remains at Todd v Vermack. We can see, though, the gap between Beefgardner and Milliston is starting to wane here. And with the one... Actually, hang on. 616, that's Andrew Veldkamp. Oh, right, he was moving over. The yellow flags were flying on the back straight there. The 616 was moving over to let Hivrich and Milbank by. Let's go back on board with some of the closest fights on the field right now. We can see just side by side to get himself around. That's Nye Roberts on Daniel Richards. Heading down towards turn 1. The BMW up the inside there on the number 450 Bentley. Let's see if we can go catch back on board with the closest fight on track so far. George Todd versus Tyler Vermack. They're currently separated by 0.4 of a second. We'll stay on board here with the attacking Ferrari on his way out of turns 14 in towards turn 15 in a moment's time. This is through turn 14. This is in what is going to become the fight of the race lead. Right now, it's a fight for second. Fran Sanchez is only 4.4 seconds up the road. The moment they come into the pits, this has now become the fight for the race lead. And for George Todd, he is still very, very close by. You can see in the last lap just gone was only 300ths off of Tyler Vermack. Much later on the brakes there. And you see that bravery was rewarded because he's able to reel that Mustang back in as they make their way down through turns 1, 2, and 3. Up the road, we can see quite a lot of dust being kicked up. That's from the 44 BMW. Lapped traffic up front. That's Scott Milbank. On our way down towards turn 5, we also see some more dust kicked up there from Tyler Vermack up front. We're watching with George Todd in the number 12. Down towards turn 6 we go. Now, we do have yellow flags. It's for the 74, Sergio Belda, in trouble out of turn 1. And could that be the end of the road for Belda in his endeavors in today's race? We do still have that yellow flag out. We'll wait for confirmation on when it clears. I believe trying to get back running now through turn 3. Number 5 getting around them. Back in the green flag conditions, then we're still watching with our fight for second place, soon to become the fight of the race lead between Todd and Vermack. You can actually see they might not have to wait much longer because not too far up the road, just in front of that BMW, that white and green blur in the distance, that is Fran Sanchez pulling to one side, letting these two roll on by. So we have now upgraded from the fight of second straight up without any hesitation whatsoever to the fight of first place. 21.5 minutes left to go. These two still within a second of one another. The chances remain likely that Todd and Vermack could still elevate this to some side-by-side action. You can see riding now alongside lap traffic. That's Scott Milbank. You can see George Todd desperately clinging to wherever the slipstream comes from next. A little bit of lights there for Vermack. As you can see now tucking in behind him is Scott Milbank in the number 44 BMW. This will not be playing nicely into Todd's hands here. As you see, he does have to back off ever so slightly for turn 2, but Milbank very quickly getting out of his way. Catch up with these two in a moment's time here. Taking a look further down the line. Third place still firmly in the hands here of Christian LeBay, looking to start off the season with yet another podium appearance in the 119 Aston Martin. Looking up the road, here's Tyler Vermack leading by what is now 1.2 seconds past turn 7 on his run down the back straight to turn 8. It is very, very strong for the last 40 minutes here by Vermack. There will still be that lingering sense of the lap 1 incident between himself and Milliston, and I'm sure one driver who's definitely not going to be forgetting that in a hurry is Milliston himself. But he is inside the top 10, so great comeback drive so far from the number 1, the reigning Season 3 champion, looking for doubles here, but it'll be starting on the back foot out of round 1. But with double points opportunities coming up into Valencia at round 2 of the championship, this is still far from over. Vermack right now backed up onto Alexander Hivrich in the number 9 in the pits at the moment. Fran Sanchez still remains in there in the number 7, so Lord only knows what's going on there. And there was definitely some complications further down the line for Sanchez earlier on when they were letting these two pass. We're on board with Tyler Vermack now getting past Hivrich down towards turn 1. Hivrich backing off there in the number 9. Actually could have a go at retaking his place on track. You can see two broadly different lines between the McLaren and the Ford. 19.5 minutes left to go. Let's get a look at the grid at large here. Tyler Vermack leads ahead of George Todd with Christian LeBay in 3rd. Cas van Veltzen 4th. Zolt Beefgartner 5th. Melvin Milliston with the fastest lap in 6th place. We're actually going to get on board here very shortly with Zolt Beefgartner versus Cas van Veltzen. Here's a little sneak peek of what is expected to come your way. Two juggernaut front engines there going head-to-head. Mercedes versus Lexus in contention for what looks to be 4th place right now as one of the closest intervals inside of the top 10. Actually, the closest interval at this time. Quain versus Cheeseman on their way down the opening straight. That's since opened up to double that at 0.6 of a second. Sam Angel not too far behind either in the 719 to round out that top 10. Then looking further down the line, Nye Roberts in 11th, James Mason 12th, JM Quito in 13th, and Evan Sanchez in 14th, Corey Aiken in 15th, with Alexander Hivrich in 16th, Scott Milbank 17th, Fran Sanchez in 18th, Sergio Belda 19th, Kenneth Reher in 20th, Daniel Richards 21st, Dozer Powers 22nd, and Andrew Velkamp 23rd. 2 DNFs so far. Seen here for Cheeseman, the fight still very much so on the table between himself and Kevin Quain, in control of 8th place right now. Tyler Vermack now having since retaken the fastest lap off of Melvin Milliston. So right now onto that maximum points yield of 48 points out of round 1, giving himself the best possible chances right off the bat, heading into the double points round at round 2. Now, to refresh your memory on how the 3 different event structures work here in the NLRL Sunday League, this was quite a recent proposition. It's been around with us for a very short time, but getting back up to grips with it. The standard races, marked there by M for medium, such as Indianapolis, Imola, Spa, Alton Park, and Silverstone, are your standard 10-minute free practice, 20-minute qualifying, and 60-minute races that you've come to know and love. The double sprint races are 2 10-minute qualifying sessions. Actually, I believe it's been shortened down to just 1 20-minute, and then 2 back-to-back 30-minute smaller races. And then the endurance layout is a 90-minute race. Now, where most drivers sit there salivating at the opportunity for further positions in the championship is definitely in those double sprints, bringing that back up. Their best chances for maximum points yields comes out of Valencia, Nürburgring, and Laguna Seca. That's round 2, round 6, and round 9 in this championship here in Season 4. You see, still very close stuff here. Cheeseman v. Quain. Still just keeping another eye out for some battles up and behind them. We can see down the line is a battle between Milbank and Hivrich. Up the line, we can see Beefgartner v. Van Veltzen still going on here for 4th place. Bear in mind, Melvin Milliston is closing in and closing in fast. He's an absolute missile in today's race after that first lap incident. Looking back on board, though, Quain v. Cheeseman. Let's see if we can get some onboards with these two as we head into the final 15 minutes of racing in a moment's time. We're on with Kevin Quain, then the defending point of view. It's a rare angle to have indeed here, as we tend to try and focus more on the attacking point of view, but I think definitely we're better to look for the front row seats to this fight than the driver leading that charge. We're on board with Kevin Quain in the 607 Ford Mustang, currently fending 8th position. You can see over his rear spoiler there, just hiding underneath from the view of the cameras, is the 114 Ben Cheeseman. Then off in the distance, the black and red Lexus RCF, the 719 of Sam Angel at the back of the top 10. They make their way down the opening straight here. You can see that Ford just gets to open the taps and let that V8 sing here in Indianapolis. Down the opening straight, you can see the gap that he pulls right off the bat. Despite being slower in the last lap, this is where it all really matters for overtakes on that opening straight. And the McLaren at this time is powerless to do anything. Is going to need to be basically, I mean, sucking the exhaust fumes from either side of that Ford to make his way up past. He's going to have to be so far up the back end of that Mustang he can read the MFD. Out through turn 6, then to turn 7. 15 minutes left to go. 3/4 of an hour into round 1 of the championship, and it is still lively here in Indy for the opening round. Down past turn 7, in towards turn 8 we go. Still very close between Cheeseman, Angel, and Quain, all in contention of 8th place. We'll catch on with these 3. They make their way into Sector 3. We'll catch back on with them in a little while here, as and when we get further updates. Looking back into another one of our closest fights here, Beefgartner v. Van Veltzen for 4th place. In the last lap there, faster by 0.05 of a second. Zolt Beefgartner in the 599 Lexus, currently leading the rookies. Down towards turn 1, going toe-to-toe with a seasoned veteran of the Sunday League now and a serious heavy hitter in his own regards, Cas Van Veltzen, on his first drive with Mercedes AMG. Is this definitely grown to be quite the bizarre mixture for this fight of such a high-up place as 4th? Stay on board with Cas Van Veltzen. This is his first time out with AMG after his move away from Porsche, so you would really be quite shocked to see the kind of range this guy has when it comes to the type of machine he chooses to race in. He spent a lot of his time back in Season 3 with Ford, then in the last couple of rounds moved over to Porsche, and then instead of maybe staying with Porsche, seeing how that develops, has jumped straight back into another front engine machine, this time being from Mercedes, so really can't keep him still. I suppose we're not anywhere near the extreme length of things. If I had to bring up really the statistics back from Season 2, this is Tyler Vermack's movements over round 1 to 10. I don't think anyone's topping that one in a hurry here. Six manufacturers in under 10 rounds. I mean, that is just diabolical, is it not? But he seems to have found himself nestled nice and home nice at home with Ford, as he's now leading the charge in the 25. For Cas van Velzen, this is his third car in 2 seasons. So it's more the quality over quantity of choice we see from Van Velzen. Every single time, it has always played out into his hands here. There is method to Van Velzen's inherent madness on track. Down towards turn 1 we go then. The most recent driver in the Sunday League to take the acclaim of the Flying Dutchman, the title previously given to Wesley Kuiper. Cas is really leading the charge then in the Sunday League for Dutch racing excellency. Down towards turn 6 he goes then, and Beefgartner really could be a story of the season to follow here, as he finds himself not only up and ahead of quite a few of the returning drivers, but from where it stands right now is looking to go head-to-head with one of its growing veterans, and right off the bat, mind you, as well, in a Lexus RCF. Now, it's not a particularly unorthodox choice anymore, but it definitely does bring us back to that nostalgia of the Jason Bush era of Sunday League, where we saw this Lexus just pick its way through the crowd, seemingly out of the blue. We'll have to catch up with that later on, as there is yellow flags here, and it's an imminent emergency for the 607. Kevin Quain in trouble down out of turns 4 and 5. See there, damage on the nose of the 607, now down at 10th place behind James Mason, and looking to potentially be caught by the 719 of Sam Angel. We can see as well was also forced down quite a peg here. He was actually previously up with Quain up towards the top 8 thereabouts. So these two have dropped quite a ways back after that incident in Sector 1. Let's cut back on board though with the fight of Van Velzen versus Beefgartner on their way down the opening straight. In the meantime, you can see behind them, Melvin Milliston is closing in fast. This could get dicey. Was that a disconnect there from Beefgartner? Oh no. Oh, there he is. Oh, that is terrifying. Well, we're a little too dangerously close to Halloween here. I think we could do without a haunted car. And moreover, that's not a 1958 Plymouth Fury, and this isn't John Carpenter's Christine. Great film. But now we can see that Zolt Beefgartner has undoubtedly been possessed by the devil on his way out of turn 6. On the exit of turn 7, a little bit of a disconnect problem for Zolt Beefgartner has now brought him back into the session. Now, from his point of view, apparently everything's okay. But from our point of view, we've got a Lexus running blind. And that's got to be a terrifying sight, because if that's what the other drivers are seeing, God help you. Now on their way through Sector 3, Cas van Velzen having to find his way. He's having a fight against an adversary he can no longer see. As a matter of fact, if we try and get on board with Van Velzen and we try and see what he sees here on his way down towards... Looking at it here, oh, sadly, our heads-up display is actually covering up the center mirror. You can see just below the timer there, a very faint image of a Lexus RCF from the back end of Cas van Velzen. On his way down towards the line, 10 minutes left to go. A bit of a bizarre turn in the fight of 4th place, but nonetheless, we are still on board with Van Velzen and Beefgartner now fighting for 4th place and proper down towards turn 1 up the inside. Goes Zolt Beefgartner. It's contact between himself and the 420 out through turn 1. How both of those drivers are still going with no spin is a miracle there. Meanwhile, Melvin Milliston still right up the backside of the pair of them. If either of them think of something like that again, it is immediately to the hands of the number 1 to play here. On their way out of turn 4 in towards turn 5. On the run down towards turn 6, almost immediately, that Lexus right on top of the Mercedes now with the McLaren in tow. Trying to shift positions here from Van Velzen. We look on board now with the car at the back of this 3-car fight for 4th place. What was previously 2's company has now become 3's a crowd with the introduction of Melvin Milliston in the number 1. Watching here, I mean, this is going to be some razor precise stuff from Milliston. You can see straight off the bat, running over the brake. Zolt Beefgartner leaves himself open for that move there out through turn 8, in through turn 9 and 10, already up to 5th place. Now next in his sights, he's got 4th on his mind on his way out of turn 11 in towards turn 12. Question is, though, as we've seen with McLaren, bringing back up those speed statistics from a couple seasons back, it still gives us the same conclusive evidence. McLaren in a straight line are struggling, and we've seen that quite a few times today. It may not be too much a difference here for a driver like Melvin Milliston. This is a more machine-related problem than it is of that of the man. 170 miles an hour in the longest of straights at Monza, recorded against what Lexus could give them, which was 174. On a straight as short as this, it's still going to prove to be night and day difference, as we can see trying up the inside Zolt Beefgartner, but covered off by Melvin Milliston, who ultimately will sell himself short on the run through turn 1, has to cut through turn 2, and that's gone horribly wrong for Melvin Milliston, as now he re-emerges behind Zolt Beefgartner. Dirty tyres as well is not going to make for a graceful re-entry for the number 1. He now finds himself back where he started this battle right now, from 6th place. Still all of this in contention for 4th, but the memory there of 4th may quickly be dissipating for the returning champion. Looking further around the field to see where our nearest fights could be coming from. Alexander Hivrich versus Scott Milbank for 16th place. Hivrich on his first ever race here in the Sunday League will compete from the Rookies Championship. Scott Milbank, I believe, is on his 4th now with us here. On their way down through turns 13 and 14, right behind them, looking to get past the pair, is Christian LeBay. The number 710 of Kenneth Reher appears to be in trouble on turn 15. Let's see from the onboard here of Hivrich exactly what has gone on. You can see that the flags are being waved. There's Kenneth Reher in the number 710. Going very slow there, parallel to Gasoline Alley. What's going to go on here as Hivrich tries to make his way past? BMW in tow there. Scott Milbank seems to be quite a greater issue at hand here for the 710. Kenneth Reher. Scott Milbank runs wide through turn 1, so it's going to give a nice, healthy gap here to Alexander Hivrich in 16th place. Looking further behind, we see that Milbank has been forced almost immediately onto the nose of the car in 3rd place. That's Christian LeBay getting up and around him through the course of turn 3 into turn 4 and 5. So up the inside of turn 4, I should say. Now out through turn 5 into turn 6. See here James Mason being closely pursued by Kevin Quain. 1.1 seconds between the BMW and the Ford, and right behind him is Sam Angel in 11th. So it could be Three's company here. Battle of the front engine cars at the back of the top 10. The 413, the 607 and the 719. Ones to watch here in the next 5 minutes. Looking further around the field, we see Sam Angel sliding out of turn 15, though, losing a bit of time over Kevin Quain, who's quickly gaining time to James Mason. You can see Mason slowest of the 3 there. The BMW has been left high and dry here in 9th place. Zolt Beefgartner still resides in that top 5. Cas van Veltzen in front, Melvin Milliston behind, and from our point of view, with no lights to be seen. 5 minutes left to go. Obviously, that may not be the case for Beefgartner, but we saw that little disconnect there, and this is a glitch that often is created by a disconnect, is that it just turns the car's lights off. Now, it may seem fine for everyone else, but for us here, no lights, no dice here for the 599. It makes it much harder to see, especially for the drivers on their way down towards turn 1. They're on the exit of turn 15, though. 5 minutes left to go as we come towards the final coming laps of Season 4, Round 1. You can see his lights are back on, though, so I think Beefgartner was acutely aware of what was going on and has now switched his lights back on to solidify to us here at home that everything is A-OK. On his way out into lap 33. Still very close to be discussed there in that top 5. Van Veltzen clinging to a second row finish today. Beefgartner looking to lead the rookies in 5th overall and ahead of Melvin Milliston, who has been on the warpath since that opening lap incident between himself and Tyler Vermack. Now, we were watching the incident that took Beefgartner out of commission. It was a collision between himself and George Todd that put him down where he was, and both of those two have fought their way back up through the field. So really, it's a bit of a split of opinion for one here in the commentary box as to who takes home driver of the day, because both of them have done the same duty to the same degree, and odds so massively stacked against them there. They've both done a fantastic job in the opening round. So looking at where we stand here as we enter the final minutes of running here in round 1 of Season 4, the NLRL Sunday League, we've seen a most recent change of hands here for 10th place. Sam Angel up and ahead of Kevin Quain. 719 now into the top 10, putting 2 Lexuses and 3 rookies in the top 10 by the looks of things by the end of today's round. Now, that could change with the 607 still very close by. Looking overall, though, Tyler Vermack leads the charge in the 25 ahead of George Todd in second, Christian LeBay in third, and Cas Van Velsen in fourth place ahead of Zolt Beefgartner in fifth, Melvin Milliston not too far behind in sixth place, and Stefan Nikolai in seventh place. Ben Cheeseman in eighth, James Mason ninth, Sam Angel in 10th, with Kevin Quain in 11th. Nye Roberts in 12th place, Jan Quito in 13th, Corey Aiken in 14th, and Ivan Sanchez in 15th. Alexander Hivrich in 16th position, Scott Milbank 17th, Fran Sanchez in 18th, Sergio Belda 19th, and Daniel Richards in 20th. Kenneth Reher 21st, Dozer Powers in 22nd, and Andrew Veldkamp 23rd with 2 DNFs today. Closest fight on the track right now is a bit of a coin toss here. Diva between our between our 3 that we saw there, 9th, 10th, and 11th, Mason, Angel, and Quain, but it's also incredibly close here between Van Velsen and Beefgartner, with Milliston in tow as well. They could carry this one all the way to the Brickyard here at the checkered flag that's coming up in about 2.5 minutes' time here in Indianapolis. That puts them in the lines here right now, by the way things are being timed. That gives them, I think, looking at it here, just about 1 more lap. Of course, that's all dictated by the car up front, and with Tyler Vermack making his way down to the line, he's got to have a little more over that. With the laps being in and around the 135 mark, that gives him 2 more laps, with this one being the start of it. Looking back then to Beefgartner, the Van Velsen. It's incredibly close here between the Lexus and the AMG on their run down towards turn 13. This could be an opportunity for a leap up the inside, but he hesitates against it, knowing that that opening straight is his best possible opportunity. Lexus is one of the fastest manufacturers on ACC. He may not have to wait too much longer for the opportunity. We stay on board here with the Lexus of Zolt Beefgartner fighting in his rookie debut for 4th place. Down the opening straight, you can see it is absolutely nothing between it. V8 against V8 against V8. AMG, Lexus, and McLaren all look to clash for 4th. Right now, at the forefront of it is AMG versus Lexus, down towards turn 1 to the outside, then closed in for turn 2. Great defense by Cas Van Velsen, cut the nose off of Zolt Beefgartner. Heading in towards turn 5, down towards turn 6, Beefgartner still on the tail here of the Mercedes, and all of this is introducing a mighty concertina effect, playing very nicely into the hands, mind you, of Melvin Milliston. The number 1, who started up towards the front of today's race, was knocked down a peg by an incident between himself and Tyler Vermack at turns 3 and 4, is now back firmly in the fight for a top 5 of his very own here. Maximum damage mitigation for both of these drivers, as we also saw Zolt Beefgartner was the first casualty, knocked asunder by the number 12 of George Todd, currently up in second.
Okay, the leader is on the final lap now. Give it all you can.
As you've heard there, leader on the final lap, so Tyler Vermack is on to his final lap here. That's what dictates the end of today's race. We'll be catching on board with the 25 here, who looks to start the season off with a bang with a race win. In terms of where that will put him in the history books right now, it does bring him up, by the looks of things here, up to that joint second record with Jason Bush, the Season 2 champion, and Wesley Kuiper, who was a prominent figure in Season 1 and 2 of the Sunday League, despite never getting a championship himself. It's bringing Tyler Vermack quickly up into the history books. Melvin Milliston will miss out on his chance to go 8 race wins strong. But you can see right now is right close to this fight between Beefgartner and Van Velsen. If these two spill over as they enter their final lap of competition, this could be an easy move up to the top 5 for Milliston. You can see had a much better line on the exit of turn 1. It puts him right up with them on their way in towards turns 2, 3, and 4. We'll have to cut away at a moment to get on board with the 25, currently making their way through Sector 3. But we're going to stay on board as long as we can here with Beefgartner and Van Velsen, still fighting for 4th place. Beefgartner caught right in the middle of this all. Bear in mind, he's the leading rookie, so even if he gains a position or not, he's going to win in the rookies category for round 1 of the championship. But speaking of race wins, we'll be having a catch on board in a moment's time, but we'll have to wait just one more moment, because it could be a move here between Zolt Beefgartner and Melvin Milliston down towards turn 8. He backs out of it, so we'll quickly jump away from them to catch on board down towards the line. Checkered flags fly in the face here. Tyler Vermack wins the opening round of the NLRL Sunday League Season 4 for the number 25 Ford Mustang. George Todd on his way to the line for second place. Christian LeBay looking at a podium to kick off season 4. But let's get back on board with the talk of the town here in the opening round. The fight for 4th place led currently by Cas van Velzen. Looking for a top 5 finish. Charging up from the back end behind him is Zolt Beefgartner and Melvin Milliston. 2 scorned drivers from the opening lap incidents return to the top 10 in formidable fashion. Right behind Van Velzen, who defends vehemently for 4th, iron wall defense for the 420, and a brilliant hustle for the 599 and the number 1. A great start to their championship endeavours. Down towards the line then on a great start in the rookies. On his debut here, Stefan Nicolai, 2nd in division, 7th overall for his debut in Indianapolis. Great start to the championship for the Romanian talent in the number 5, most recent signing at K1 Esports. Ben Schiessman not far from the line as we speak. He makes his way out of turn 15. Number 114 is joined by his teammate James Mason, 8th and 9th there, with Stefan Nicolai making it 3 K1 cars inside of that top 10. Schiessman to the line, 8th place. Mason not far from the line, will be in 9th. You can see right behind him, though, this could be a run all the way to the checkered flag. Very short run, though, from turn 15, running out wide. Is it going to be into the wall there for Sam Angel? But he will finish in the top 10, missing out on his chances to surf it to 9th. Mason 9th, Angel 10th, Quain 11th. Roberts on his first trip back under our lens here since the end of the TRR Sprint Series in 12th place. Further down the line, Corey Aiken 13th, JM Quito 14th, Ivan Sanchez in 15th. Looking further down the line here, Alexander Hivrich 16th, Scott Milbank 17th, Fran Sanchez 18th, Sergio Belda 19th, Daniel Richards 20th, Kenneth Reher 21st, Dozer Powers 22nd, and Andrew Veldkamp 23rd. 2 DNFs, Kyle Jenkins and Joel Villager, the 113 and the 98. Bottom line, though, Tyler Vermack is your race winner for round 1 of Season 4, the NLRL Sunday League. George Todd on the podium and LeBay on the podium as well. Cas van Velzen fighting with every fibre of his being for 4th, and in the top 5, leading the rookies, the 599 of Zolt Beefgartner. Then just right behind him, a great comeback drive, much like the 599, a great comeback drive for the number 1 of Melvin Milliston. Those two, I would say, take a joint driver of the day vote in my books there. That was sensational comeback performance from the pair, and that's to no discredit of anyone else on the field. Oh, that's all from us here. What a way to kickstart the championship here. A great result for Tyler Vermack, a great result for George Todd and for Christian LeBay. They could be your set pieces for the championship fight later down the line. Only time will reveal that in due course. Looking at where we'll be on the calendar next, double points round with the double sprint coming up on the 2nd of November at the Valencia circuit. Then over to Imola the week after. Before the end of November, we'll be heading to Monza and Spa. The final race in November being at Nürburgring. Then we'll be heading in for 2 races at Christmas, around the Christmas period, I should say, 7th of December and 14th of December. You'll catch us then after a long winter's break for round 9 of the championship in 2026 on the 4th of January, rounding everything out on the 11th of January, right where we ended Season 3 at the mighty Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Of course, at the end of that, we'll be doing the very same raffle that gave us this mighty calendar here for Season 4. And what a way to start the season. A great result for a lot of the drivers there. Great hustle and some fantastic battling to boot. This is going to be a very fun championship indeed. Very well done to our drivers today. That's all from us here on TRTN. Of course, we would like to remind you that it wouldn't be able to bring you these performances week in and week out without the support of our sponsors over at Malwar Transport, oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialists of Quebec. They've been behind us every step of the way here in the Sunday League and over on the Console Endurance Series as well. Visit their website on www.malwar-transport.ca. That's all from us here on TRTN. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care and good night.